What is up, DTube Hexicans? So today I want to talk about why Hex is better than yield farming. It is the latest buzzword in DeFi among crypto amateurs. And what does yield farming mean? Well, since we can create a lot of coins and we have a lot of random stuff that calls itself DeFi. Well, I wouldn't really call it DeFi. I would only call Hex the true DeFi. But okay, so we can create these coins, right? And people can experiment with giving people interest rates and so on. And what people now are doing is they're experimenting on Ethereum. We know that Hex is the best DeFi, but then people are trying to experiment with yield farming, they're calling it, where they're trying to earn some profit pretty quick by combining different tokens. Okay, you use this token as collateral and then you can lend some other token. So it's mainly based on borrow and lending kind of system, kind of like banks are doing it, but they're trying to do it in a crypto way. Now Hex is taking one product from banks, which is the certificate of deposit, and doing a blockchain version of that. Now what these guys are doing with yield farming is they are mainly using this borrow and lending kind of system where you can get, it's kind of like margin trading platforms where you can get wrecked pretty hardcore. You can get liquidated. Liquidated means that they can take all your money. Something that cannot happen with Hex. If Hex goes down, you still have your coins because you mint them so when you stake them they get burnt, and then when the stake ends they get created from nothing, which I think personally is real DeFi. Now, this other fake DeFi I would call borrow and lend, even though you probably can do borrow and lend in some ethical way. But once we start talking, doing the same thing as liquidation platforms are doing, where they can like liquidate you if you do like 100x long and it goes down 1%, this doesn't really sound like real DeFi. So this borrow and lend yield farming system is pretty much nonsense, because it's like when they're talking about like yield, it doesn't even come close to what you're getting with Hex. So if I go to Hex, or if I go to go.hex.win now, and we can just experiment a little bit here. So I'm going to go to the stake tab, and let's say I would stake 1000 Hex. So if I would stake, let's see, I have to hold it with my other hand. Okay, if I would stake 1000 Hex for 1000 days, I would get big payday. I would get 2700 Hex. That's a 2.7x. The API would be 780%. Gain would be 273%. Stake shares would be 147 billion, and we know how the share rate works, where shares always get more scarce. So sometime in the future, shares are going to be probably 100x more scarce. We don't know when that's going to happen. Maybe 1,000 years in the future, but I don't think so. I think it's way closer. Yeah, but the share rate only goes up. So that means you always get less shares, which means that people that stake early and get in early and stake early for longer, they get exponential kind of returns. And this yield farming with these other things, they're not even coming close to what you are getting here with Hex, with the big payday. A lot of this fun stuff with the big payday and this massive like share rate difference that's going to happen after the big payday. I mean, a lot of these fun stuff is going to go away in 2021. It's going to only be like 3.69% inflation per year. If that means if all the coins are staked like 100%. So people are doing this yield farming, but we already have a superior system where, because this has multipliers. You have the big payday multiplier, you have the share rate multiplier, you have the fiat value kind of multiplier, and all these like multiplies, which gives you an exponential effect, which you do not get with these yield farming systems, with this like, okay, put this in collateral in compound, and then put it in balancer, and then borrow some USDT or deposit some coins and get like 8% or whatever. I mean, people are talking about like 8% here and there, or like maybe you can get 30%. People are super excited about coins that goes up like 40% in a week, even though they only done maybe like 700% the last 3 years. While we actually have HEX here that is currently up, I think around 6,400% or something like that, since its low this year. So it actually has done like 6,000% this year. It's actually been up even 11,000% this year. That was just 2 months ago. This is something that's happening right now. And it's like this yield farming nonsense. It's like, if you want to, you can't get the amazing yield in yield farming, because you can try a bunch of different coins and like, but it's not good markets, it's not good products. Like a lot of these, like a big idea with yield farming is like you can earn from fees from liquidity, or you can provide liquidity. But we already have proof that people that are providing liquidity in Uniswap, they're not making that much money from that at all. They're not earning that much. Even if you have a lot of money and you're adding liquidity to Uniswap or some DEX, you're not really earning that much. You're not earning 6,000%, as if someone bought HEX at its low on January the 5th, and if they sold today, they would be up like 6,000%. You're not getting 6,000% with yield farming. And a lot of it, that is also those kind of DeFi random coins that pop up. They also, there's a lot of stable coin nonsense there, and I'm also pretty sure just because they use so many different coins, which is also a branding confusion, which is not good for the product at all. And also, yeah, they use a bunch of different coins, and sometimes some coins have higher kind of interest rate and some have lower. Probably some coins are going to disappear in the future. You have many different blockchains involved, which kind of confuse things even more for everyone, for the consumer, and yeah, for everyone basically. And most of these things are not like locked in a smart contract, and a lot of those numbers can probably change in the future. You know, sometimes you see a high interest rate on some coins, sometimes you can't deposit some coins into collateral. Overall, I mean, HEX is real DeFi. It's the only real DeFi that I kind of know of that has been audited. I'm not really sure if a lot of these other nonsense has been audited. And if you want a lot of yield, now this is yield at the moment in HEX, so nobody knows what's going to be worth in fiat. But if you want amazing yield in HEX, you only have to stake way longer than other people, or stake longer than the average, and you are gonna get more shares. Or yeah, when you have more shares, 3x the shares, if you stake 3 or 10 years, I think it's around 20% more shares per year or something like that, you get exponential return eventually when shares become super scarce, and when shares becomes even more scarce than HEX. Nothing in the DeFi space, in the crypto space at the moment, at least not in 2020s, can compete against HEX. Even these HEX clones nonsense, it's just horrible. People are incompetent, they're not knowing what they're doing. They're trying to like ride on the wave, but they can't even get 10% of the success that HEX is having. I mean, some of these coins I think have to go up like 400x or something like that to just reach where HEX is at the moment. You don't know who is behind it or whatever, behind a lot of these other nonsense that just popped up from nowhere. So yield farming, I would say, is pretty boring. There, like, if you want to make a lot of value in something, I mean, it's not that easy. Like, you need a real niche, something that people never tried before, and people never tried a share rate and the share price that HEX smart contract is having. We never tried certificate of deposit on the blockchain, but we've tried all these other, like, what I would call fake DeFi in the past. This collateral stuff, we already saw it, I think last year or in 2018 with Nexo. and it was pretty boring stuff. Like, it was pretty cool before we had HEX. It was like, wow, we can kind of use something as collateral and we can generate something else. But that's not really needed when you have HEX, because HEX is just a better product. It's a better smart contract, and that is very, very, very exciting. And I've been diving deep into a lot of these things to see, is there anything real in all these other things? No, none of them are even original. Most of the times it's just a quick brand. They pop up with a new logo, and all of these other DeFis, they work the same. You deposit random coins as a collateral, and they try. It seems like they're not trying to focus on the big picture. Like, they were an economist that talked about why Bitcoin basically would fail on a video by Peter McCormack in, I think, November 2018, and I think it was called Steve, and he basically talked a little bit about this aspect that deflationary currencies, the bad thing about them is they have never been able to like build a successful economy, because you need to be able to create more value. You need to be able to create, you need to be able to print more value to the consumers to kind of grow an economy, and that's basically what DTC and HEX is kind of doing. And none of these other products is kind of doing it. Like, Bitcoin kind of want to be a deflationary thing, and these kind of random DeFi things over here, instead of trying to focus on how can we print more value to positive game theories, they're aiming too low. They're like aiming, okay, how can we just make some kind of 8% thing per year, and maybe this is a good industry, but certificate of deposit is just way better industry, because it is like, it's like digital gold but with interest, and that's kind of cool. Way faster also. How if you move your HEX on the Ethereum blockchain, it just moves way faster than Bitcoin, which only can do 7 transactions per second. And I think even that Bitcoin, it consumes so much electricity that it consumes as much electricity as Belgium or something like that, I think I heard. Which is like, okay, that's not really that resource efficient for Bitcoin. And what would be the most resource efficient DeFi? Probably the one where you don't have to complicate it so much. So all of these like yield farming things, they're almost like complicating it for the user, where, okay, deposit this as collateral, and then maybe you can lend this thing, and then maybe you can try to use it as collateral at another place, and maybe you can get a few percent here and there. Why are you complicating so much? Why not just looking at the reality of things, that one of the things that has worked the best in the world is certificate of deposits, and that there, I think at the moment there's like trillions of dollars in certificates and CDs in the world that are kind of locked up for specific time periods, and that is something that's working at the moment. Why are you not aiming for that kind of industry instead? They're more, and it's like weird, because it's like you see that a lot of these DeFi guys or a lot of these crypto guys that seem to gatekeep HEX, they're talking about these other DeFi things, but usually they do not talk about HEX. And then you have to look, okay, what is actually going on here? Because we haven't noticed anything crazy with HEX. It has been actually working amazing. And if those guys kind of are ignoring HEX, then when it works amazing, and they're only talking about this worse yield farming nonsense stuff, they love talking about that, but they do not like to look at the truth and the reality of things, that those things are not up 6,000% since January the 5th. Many of them are just up 30% or 20% or 50%, but then the crypto media instantly goes and be like, yeah, we love this. Yeah, this is the future. This is the Tesla of crypto. I think I heard that about the Chainlink, which I don't even think have solved oracles. But people almost love trash for some reason. It's almost like you're too intimidated by something that's truly audited and that truly works, and that actually at the moment when I'm speaking is up 6,000%. I mean, it's silly, like, because I'm just looking at the data, right? And I'm used to using simple logic, okay? And if something is up like 6,000% at the moment, which is like, I think it was like 64x the last time I checked. If something is up, if a crypto is up 64x in this year, I mean, there's no other crypto in the DeFi space that even comes close to that. And there's no other crypto that currently is 5x Ethereum or 5x Chainlink or 5x Bitcoin. I mean, it's only HEX that currently is doing that. And I've checked the charts. How did Bitcoin perform the first 200 days? How did Ethereum perform the first 200 days? And how did XRP perform the first 200 days? And I think with XRP, I almost think it's like 8x the speed of XRP or something like that, but I can't remember if that was actually what it was. But what you can see in general is it is going like with the speed of like 5x a lot of other cryptos the first 200 days, and none of these other yield farming kind of cryptos are doing anything magical like that. So why are these crypto YouTube guys even giving it attention? Like, if they do not give attention to HEX, why are they giving attention to real nonsense products that barely even have a community? So if you look at my videos, they get around 300 views per video, but this is also real community. I mean, the average watch time on a lot of these videos are 10 minutes. And I don't think these other guys have that. I don't think they have a unified community like that. And I also think other communities in the DeFi space, they probably are more greedy. Or maybe I should take that back. Maybe I should say that these other crypto communities, their problem is they're too small with their greed. Hexicans are basically using maximum greed, where they realize, well, if you kind of want to do this crypto space, if you want to do this thing, maximum greed is the best thing, and then you have to print so much more than the kind of the mentality behind a lot of these other projects. They're like too small with their greed. I mean, if they're more greedy, they would actually get more richer, and they would actually make other people way wealthier too. So maybe they should focus on that instead. Having a larger identity, basically. I mean, basically the way I'm looking at it, we need to print way more than what people have been kind of considering in the past. So in the past, a lot of people have been talking a lot about this concept that, oh yeah, scarcity is what makes value. But now we're starting to realize, no, we just need to print a lot of value. We need to print more than we've done in the past, because we're moving up to 10 billion humans on the planet. We need more coins than these coins that are like a few million. Like, we need coin supply, which is around HEX, like 500 billion coins. Like, we probably need cryptos eventually with even more coins than that, because yeah, 10 billion is a lot of people, and you need a lot of coins for those people if you want something to actually work, and you need it to be able to expand when the world population kind of expands. So yeah, nothing comes close to HEX. Nothing in DeFi. Most of these other things in DeFi, like yield farming, it's like a joke. The yield in HEX superior, beats everything else. Just look at the data. It's out there. Yeah, have a great day, YouTube.